Can you believe it? It's week number 9 of the Texas high school football season. Midway with a chance to take a deep breath and decompress with an off week after that thrilling win against Temple down at Wildcat Stadium a couple of weeks ago. Joe Gillespie, head coach. I'm David Smoak. Our broadcast on Friday on 106.7 FM, The Eagle, and also you can get it on the app, Sikkim 365 app, is on Friday, 7 o'clock pregame, 7:30 kickoff, Panther Stadium against Killeen High. How was the off time? How was the chance to just take a deep breath?
Well, I think it came at a very opportune time, David. And you know, we had played 7 games in a row, and in those 7 games, we've had to play 48 minutes, all 4 quarters. And, you know, we've had some bumps and bruises, and unfortunately, you know, this is a physical, violent game, and so it comes with it's kind of the nature of the territory. And, you know, I had some kids that might have been out that were getting back now, and so it was very opportunistic for us. And so, you know, we were able to sit there and rest some kids a little bit, continue to sharpen our tools and perfect our trade, but at the same time, let's get some of these kids like a Lathan and Landon and all those guys that you rely on so much, give them a little bit of a breather.
Yeah, attrition takes over, doesn't it?
It does.
And that's one of the things, I saw this even early on, when you played Westwood in the opening game and blew them out, but you rotated a lot of people on defense. Offense, yes, you know, a few, but I mean, on defense, you rotated. I noticed that, which eventually builds more snaps and experience, but also can build some depth, which you've needed. Is that, I mean, if you have enough depth, that's what you want to do, especially on the defensive line.
Especially with the defensive line, and you know, with what we run defensively, and you know, being a 3 down, you want to, obviously you got to have depth with it. And I mean, one of the hardest jobs on the field from a defensive standpoint is to be a defensive lineman, because the best thing that you can get is 5 guys blocking 3. And that's the best scenario. And so you start stacking the box offensively and blocking with, you know, the running back. Now you got 6, or a tight end. Now you got 7 and stuff. So we got to keep fresh legs. You got to keep a lot of guys rotating in. And you know, Coach Jones, Coach Creech, those guys do a tremendous job in doing that.
Well, so do your offensive line staff, because we mentioned this a couple of 2 or 3 weeks ago. You lost both guards and a center. I mean, now you have 2 really very talented tackles in Michael Collins and Landon Pope, but you lose the gut of your offensive line, and they stepped up. And I wondered, I was like, okay, and obviously it's helpful when you have what Lathan can bring, and even Eduardo Longoria coming back, and Raul English played a little bit again last week, but I mean, it's almost like they didn't miss a beat. Is there more beef? Is it just that there's not much of a drop-off? Because you lost 3 guys on your offensive line.
Well, I think there's a combination of a lot of things, David. I think these kids are hungry to play football. Our coaches do a tremendous job of really teaching them and coaching them up. And then, you know, one of our biggest deals is, you know, sometimes talent takes over a little bit. And so you got to be a tremendous student of the game. And I think, you know, I think our kids have been tremendous students, and understanding, you know, what we're trying to carry out game plan wise, and also understanding what they're trying to do defensively, and then understanding what you have. And so, you know, taking all of those things, wrapping them up into one, makes for a good potion. And so, you know, I've been excited about what our offensive line has been able to do, especially with the injuries. We're hopeful to sit there and get a couple of them back.
All right, so one player who's back, he has not played a snap this year, was a player that was a huge difference in that run down the stretch when Esgram was coaching and you guys got hot. Midway, you weren't there, but Midway got hot. Donovan Jones, he had 2 interceptions for touchdowns. He blocked 2 punts against Temple. One of them he caught in the end zone. He also, I mean, he made big plays. I'll never forget the game at Bryan. He had a pick 6. He hasn't played a snap.
Yes, sir.
Hamstring, and he just hasn't played. Why is he back this week?
Well, it's kind of been it's been quite a process for him and for us, and I know he was as frustrated about it as anybody. And this is a young man that, I mean, he's got a very bright future ahead of him, and but he loves Midway football, and he wants to come out and help us win as many games as we can win and play a part in this. And so it's been frustrating to him, and fortunately we were able to get him back during the open week, and we were methodically kind of worked him into it, and then this week we've been working him in even more. Obviously we're going to need him to go out and have 2 pick sixes and a punt return for 100 and something and all that stuff too.
All right, so my question about that, when an NFL players, they're always working out, everyone works out during the off season, but you're not in football mode.
Sure.
No matter if you have great cardio and you have got no body fat. What about him being in shape for football?
I think we got to be very careful. Number one, we want him to see the conclusion of the season, whenever that may be, and obviously we want that to not be 3-4 weeks down the road. We want this to go for a good while, and so we're going to have to do a pitch count with him, obviously, and make sure that he is in football shape, but not so much just football shape, but make sure that we keep him healthy, because we don't want to be a one and done type deal, and Donovan feels the same way and agrees with it. And so, when we have the opportunity, we're going to rotate a lot of guys from the linebacker standpoint. We've had a lot of guys produce for us, Jaden Krause and Max Mate and Kazuka, Chauncey King. I mean, all of these guys that have played a major role, and I could go on down the road, Lincoln Fisher and all that stuff. And so we're going to have to, we can do this, we're just going to have to do this and be very systematic about it.
Chauncey King is 50-50 on whether he might play?
He's a 50-50. I think we'll find out more so today, and unfortunately, dealing with some illness and things of that nature, and hope to have him back by next week for sure.
So I as a broadcaster, with my last name being Smoak, but it's S-M-O-A-K, for all my lifetime we moved around military brat teachers my first year in class at each new school, and it was like all the time, is David Smoak or David Smoak, and I bring that up because it was Smoak, and I finally got to the point where I've always been a little stubborn. I would not answer and they'd say, anyone's name not get called? And I'm bringing this up because one time the lady goes, what's your name, the teacher? And I was like, Smoak, David Smoak. Oh, well, why didn't you say that? The guy just so Kazuka.
Yes, sir.
Tell me a little, because he's been on the depth chart, the 2 deep from day one, but tell me a little bit about him and going to have to play in that middle with where Chauncey's been.
Well, I call him Zoo. And Zoo has done a wonderful job. I mean, ever since we got here, he is certainly one of those program kids that you build programs off of, and a great leader for us. Not so much from a boisterous standpoint, but just from a work ethic standpoint. And, being where you're supposed to be, when you're supposed to be there, doing what you're supposed to do, work ethic second to none. And, it's put him in a position like this. And so, he's been nipping at the heels all season long and wanting an opportunity. As a matter of fact, I think he told Chauncey the other day, "You're not getting it back." So that's some competition, but that's good, healthy competition that we have going on. Not just from that standpoint, but from an offensive line standpoint, a D-line standpoint, a secondary standpoint, and anytime that you got competition within, it makes for a good environment.
It's amazing the way the game works. So you get Donovan back, and then Chauncey might not play. Talton and Roberts, who got hurt the last home game, and then the offensive line. It's crazy that it just seems like, and that's a great compliment. I told you this in the radio interview that we'll have. Your staff has had chaos at times, depth chart chaos because of it. It's a violent game. They've done a hell of a job, Joe.
Well, I appreciate it.
Really have.
And very grateful for the staff that we have. And this was something that we spent a lot of time putting together. There was, we were very selective in what we wanted to bring in. And I said it on the radio deal the other day. This was a staff that we wanted a bunch of guys cut from the same cloth, from guys that we brought outside, from guys that we kept inside. And so it's been very special for us. It's been very special for these young men, and I think that's why we're in the position we're in right now. But we've got 3 games left. I mean, we're halfway through district. We're feeling pretty good about things right now, but we got 3 very, very good opponents.
Well, you had the off week after the thrilling win against Temple, which might have been a good thing. Either you want to play right away with the momentum, or you want to Killeen is 0-8. That's what the players see. They also see the film, and I'm telling you, they can put up some yards and points, can't they?
They can. And that's one of the discussions. As a matter of fact, at the end of the day yesterday, we met as a team and stuff, and just, it's natural for people, and we keep a big master schedule.
Oh, yeah, it's got the grid.
It's got the grid of everybody that we play and their entire schedule and stuff like that. You can't help it. It's human nature to sit there and do a comparison game and stuff. But as you sit there and you look at the scores, this is a team that has put up 40 and 50 points in the last 8 games multiple times, and maybe more times than not. And, unfortunately, lose a game 58-52, and I'm probably making up some numbers, but but I'm in the ballpark of stuff, 58-40, 52, 48-45, things of that nature. And anytime you can put up points like that, you got to respect the heck out of them. And then, this is a team, Josh Sadler, a great friend of mine. I respect the heck out of him. The head coach there at Killeen does a tremendous job. It's just kind of been one of those deals where, having a hard time finding the win column. And so they're at a point right now, and I explain this to our kids, if I'm sitting in the same shoes, I'm going to throw everything in the kitchen sink at you.
Trick plays, whatever.
Trick plays going forward on 4th down, 2-point conversions, fake punts, everything, onside kicks. And so, honestly, at this point, what do you have to lose? And try to give themselves some momentum going into the off season.
I saw him in the press box at halftime of your game with Temple, and everything gets fancy, whatever the play calls, the schemes, the formations, or whatever, and he said to me, and I told you this. So you guys were running the ball all over Temple, and I know the second half got crazy, but you were killing them with the run game. And he said, football's a pretty simple game. And he told me, based on what Temple was lining up, and he's like, you're going to do this. It came down to just, that's how simple it was. Now, they adjusted. That's their great staff, too.
Yeah.
But, he got a chance to watch you. He's very impressed. Obviously, he thought that, you got to stop their run, but Pullen can absolutely throw some BBs.
He can spin the ball, and we've got some receivers, that are really just stepping up to the game. You can sit there and talk about a Tyler Scythe and a Charlie Cantrell, but you also got to talk about some other guys. The Jackson Burst, the catch that he had in that game.
The huge catch that gave you a chance against Temple.
Gave us a chance.
And in the last drive, that 98-yard drive he caught.
Not just the big touchdown that really kind of spurred some things, but honestly, it was the moving the sticks in the last drive, between him and Cantrell and Scythe and all of those guys. And then you start throwing in a Jacoby Hamilton and several of those kids. And, unfortunately, DeAndre Thomas, we're going to be without him for a couple, 2 or 3 weeks, and, who was really coming on. And so, but again, we got to sit there and dip down, next man up, and let's go.
No one's feeling sorry for you because they got their bumps and bruises too.
Yes, sir.
7 o'clock pregame on 106.7 FM, the Eagle, the game at Panther Stadium against Killeen, the Kangaroos, the oldest of all the schools out of Killeen ISD, and they can flat out put some points and yards up. They've got bumps and bruises too, so it'll be interesting to see who's playing for them at some of those key positions. Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
David, thank you. Always a pleasure.
Yeah, you too. Midway football coach Joe Gillespie every Thursday, or actually Wednesday, and we put it up and send it out to the school district. This is the Midway Weekly Football Podcast, brought to you by Burt Colgin Ford.